everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of the T.chelle show. I am your host, Torrancemarchil, and I hope that you guys are doing well today. I know that I am. Listening to these back, I feel like I'm giving a lot of my personality, but really I am not. I don't know. It's not translating well. I think you guys will see a little bit more of my personality once we have the video, but I'm going to try to incorporate more of myself in here so that I don't just sound like I don't want to be here, because I definitely want to be here and I definitely want to talk to you, but also entertain you guys. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into today's topic. And today's topic is social media addiction. And so everyone has talked about this to a certain degree. Like there's so many YouTube videos, reels, TikToks. This is a popular subject or topic because a lot of people are addicted to social media or have been at some point. It's really easy to get addicted to it. I mean, they design these things for it to be addictive, especially with short form content. It's just so easy to get lost in the sauce and be scrolling for 2 hours. And, that does something to your brain with, all the dopamine hits and all that. And I'm not going to get too much into the psychological part of it because though I do know a lot about it, I just don't think that I could vocalize that well. So I'm going to leave that to the professionals like the Andrew Hubermans of the world. I don't think I can do that. So, but we know what dopamine does. We know a lot of us are aware of what this stuff does to our brains. And so that's reason enough to want to not be addicted. But I want to focus more on why we're addicted. I think that there's a lot of content out there speaking on what we can do, dopamine detoxes and all of these different things to break the social media addiction. And I think that it's helpful. And I think that there's a place for it. I myself have done at least one real one, but 2 or 3 dopamine detoxes. And they are effective at recalibrating your mind. They are effective when it comes to that. But truthfully, if you don't know why you're addicted to social media, you're going to just get addicted again. It's just easy, cheap dopamine. And so when you need a boost or you're looking for something to make you feel good or distract you or whatever the case may be, social media is such an easy reach. I feel like before social media, it maybe used to be things like beer or drugs or something of the sort. And people do still turn to that, but I feel like more people use social media as an outlet. They use it to escape from their reality. And I think I see that more so with the younger generation, like millennials and Gen Z, because we essentially grew up with social media, not just social media. We grew up with technology. I'm a millennial and I think I got the computer in the second or third grade? Second grade. Yes, second grade, because I grew up on we grew up on Disney and things like that. So we had the That's a Raven games and the Lilo and Stitch games and stuff like that on the Disney Channel website. And, we had little things, but being a 29-year-old and getting your first piece of internet in the second grade, come on, you're getting it so early in life. And then the schools also had computers at a certain point. I forgot when I first started seeing that in schools, but it was definitely in elementary school and we were able to play certain games, especially learning games. So we really grew up on that stuff versus Gen X, which is my parents' generation. So we grew up with this. So it's always been easy for us to get our hands on if we wanted to. But now I feel like it's technology has advanced so much and social media is exactly what it is today. So we know that you wake up, the first thing you grab is your phone. You get on TikTok, you scroll for a little bit. You get on Instagram, you scroll for a little bit, or Facebook, whatever you like to use, right? And so we know how easy it is to get to. But why do we gravitate towards social media so much? And I'm talking about people who are legitimately addicted to it, people who can control their social media usage. First of all, I am jelly. That to never be addicted to social media is wonderful. But I feel like people who are like that are older. So I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about people who are addicted. I find that most people who are addicted to social media usually are unhappy in their life in at least one area. So that might be they don't love how their dating life is going. They may not like their home life if it's a young teen or a young adult living with their family, or couples living together, people going through like life changes. I know maybe you just got married or just had a kid and the transition is rough. So you might turn to something like social media to kind of get your mind off of it for a little bit. But also people who maybe have deeper issues. Maybe they are unhappy with their work, what they do for a living. Maybe they are going through a bit of depression. Maybe they are unhappy. There's a lot of ways you could be unhappy. Maybe they're unhappy with the amount of money that they make. There's a lot of reasons why people may be unhappy in turning to social media. And so I will share a bit about myself. I began to notice that I was addicted to social media probably around 2018 or 2019. I'm going to say 2019. One of those years, I can't remember. It was the year where I started to work from home. I had no longer worked at the job I had before, which was an office job. So I was interacting with people and doing a relatively easy job, to be honest. But I started working from home, which is something that I thought that I wanted. But it wasn't what I thought it would be. First of all, I didn't like the job that I had. It just demanded too much of me and too much of my time. And there wasn't a lot of flexibility because while I worked from home, I also had a 2-year-old at home at the time, 2 or 3-year-old, depending on which year we're talking about. And so he needed a lot of my time too. And you cannot really control what 2 or 3-year-olds do. They kind of just do what they do. So I can't force him to be quiet or force him to not be around me for 8 hours a day or however much time I need him to be away from me. And so that made me unhappy because I am unhappy with my job. I don't like the job that I have. I can't have the flexibility to work and to be a mom. I also wasn't making the best money either. And though I was a work from home mom, I was in a relationship at the time and living with that person. And that person, we were not married. So we were shacking up, but we weren't married. So my bills were not his bills. He didn't take care of me financially in that way. So I'm unhappy with my job. I'm not making a lot of money. And I can't spend time with my kid or be flexible there. And then I lose the aspect of being around people. And I'm a naturally extroverted person. So I think now, because of so many years of just always being home, I have developed some introvert tendencies, but I'm still very naturally an extrovert. And so when you take away people interaction, that is very shocking. It's so different. I'm used to being around people. People do drain me, extrovert or not, people can drain me. So I definitely have to still protect, I guess, my energy, for lack of better words. But still, I enjoy being around people, interacting with people. So I didn't have that. I was just at home with my child. The only person I interacted with every day was customers who were cursing me out or my child. And as much as I love my children, their conversation just isn't stimulating enough for me all the time. I need to speak to another adult. So that's when my social media addiction began. I found myself just scrolling, just always. My drug of choice, I guess, is mainly YouTube. And it's kind of like a two-edged sword because I love to acquire new information. I love to learn things. I love, especially like self-help content. I don't really believe in the term self-help. I believe in God help. But self-help content is typically what I gravitate towards. So I ingest a lot of that, a little less now, but at that time I ingested a lot of that and like mommy content, just stuff pertaining to where I was in life at the time. And so I just found myself just using social media as an escape. I like to watch other mommy vlogs because I found comfort in the fact that they were living a life that I would ideally like to live. And I understand you don't know people's life behind the scenes. I'm not basing it off of that or even the relationship they had with the father. I was basing it on the fact that they had their lives together, meaning they could do whatever they wanted with their kids and with their life. They can go to the park when they want it. They seemingly had the money that they needed to sustain their family life. And they also had the support. I've never really had support when it came to my children. And so all of these things are stressors for me. So I found myself living vicariously through these people who were living ideal family lives to me at that time. And I noticed that it was getting bad when I would get frustrated when my child tried to speak to me because he was interrupting a video I was watching. And it had been like my 10th video of the morning or something like that. That's when I noticed that it was really bad and how hard it was to force myself off of that to be present with my child. Because yes, I love my child, but being present with my child also means being present and aware of my current situation. And so it was like bittersweet. I get to spend time with my child and play with him and talk to him and, he's so funny and all that. But the reality was what it was. I was just very unhappy in life. And so I did things to try to get me off of social media, and it didn't really work at that time. The entire time that I stayed there from that point, like 2018 or 2019 to about 2020, I was just always on social media, just ingesting content. And it made me so irritable and just not pleasant to be around. I had to really catch myself. I always felt tired and groggy because I was ingesting so much content, so much blue light, like glued to my phone, watching a screen constantly. It just wasn't benefiting me any, but it was still better to me than my real life at the time. So I just couldn't break away from it unless, I had to be a mom. And so I wasn't dealing with any of my issues. I wasn't reflecting and seeing what can I do different, because at that time, truthfully, it didn't seem like there was anything that I could do differently, that was in my control. A lot of the situations that I get myself in, oftentimes I can't get myself out of. So God has to do it. And so when God has to come and save you from you, sometimes it takes time because that's just God. Like he moves on his timing, not ours. So fast forward to 2020 and I move out and I move in with my friend for a bit. And I'm still on social media, but not as much because now I have a 3-year-old and a newborn and I am working more. I still don't like the work that I do, and I'm still not making a whole lot of money, but it's more imperative now because, I'm living with someone else. That's a friend, a good friend, never pushed me out of the house or anything like that. But I just didn't want to overstay my welcome at this person's house with 2 kids. So naturally, I was off of social media and working more, but I still was pretty unhappy with life, but I was happier than what I just was before that. And so then fast forward to 2021, I get my own place and, I'm comfortable. Me and my kids are comfortable. It's a good thing. But then that like adrenaline rush or that happiness or that joy wore off pretty quickly because I found myself still unhappy with circumstances. It seemed like I just could not escape certain circumstances. And so I found myself on social media again. Granted, I don't think it was as bad as it was in 2018 and 2019, but it was still bad. It was still, I knew that I had an issue. I knew that it wasn't normal how much I was ingesting social media and YouTube content or Instagram content or whatever I was ingesting. So, 2020 year was the year where God was doing or trying to do a lot of revealing myself to me, but I fought him on it because in my mind, it's like, I don't want to do this heavy internal work because I'm tired. Like the past couple years have been so rough. I just didn't have the energy to do any self-reflective work because I'm pretty self-aware and I do a lot of self-reflection a lot anyway. That's just kind of my nature. And so I'm aware of how much work and dedication that requires from you. And so I did not want to do that. So I was putting it off and putting it off and putting it off and still on social media, still just in my own mind, absent and all of that. And then, God did reveal some things to me about some internal issues that I had, but I didn't want to deal with them. Like he told me what they were, but I did not want to deal with it. So 2022 comes and I'm still not really receptive. Things are essentially the same, but I think I'm just a bit more burnt out. Just a lot happened in 2022, And so I just was trying to coast. I was just trying to escape. I was still trying to escape life. And so 2023 came and God sat me down. A lot of people said that 2023 was rough for them. So I think God sat a lot of people down. So if that's you, then you can relate probably. But yeah, God sat me down and got to work. And I was receptive this time because I knew I was unhappy with circumstances. Like I was unhappy with life, but I was also unhappy with the choices that I had made and the habits that I had adapted. And so I wanted to change. And so in that, God showed me myself. And so throughout that entire year, I had learned that I had a lot of trauma in me that had been not dealt with. And so I had like rejection issues, I had abandonment issues, I had daddy issues, I had mommy issues. I had to work on like self-esteem and self-worth. I had depression, which was new to me. So I had learned that I had all of these issues, and then God did the work in me, showing me why I had those issues, where these things stem from. And so once I sat down with him for that entire year and let him show me and heal these parts of me, I was also in therapy. I used to be not into therapy, but I was led to go to therapy in 2023. And so I definitely think that it is a resource. It is a tool, but ultimately I leave everything up to God. Like I know therapy cannot heal any issues that I have unless they're like, they can't heal any deep-rooted issues I have. They can probably help me break some bad habits, but any deep-rooted issues that I have to let God do that in me. So I went to therapy and God was ministering to me at the same time. And so I was getting a lot of insight on things and was able to let things go and deal with things. And I found that once these things kind of started lifting off of me and I was just more aware of things and learned how to still have peace and joy in the midst of chaos, I found that I didn't need social media as much. There were still times where I found myself on it, maybe longer than I needed to, but I think it's just because of certain platforms. Some platforms are more addictive than others. Like I think TikTok is probably the most addictive app, and I think that's by design. That's just my opinion, but it wasn't because I was trying to escape life or run away from myself or want to run away from God anymore. I had grown past that and could just appreciate social media for what it was. And so in that, I just found myself feeling so much better about everything overall. And so once I became content with life, regardless of what it looked like, I did not feel the need to run to social media or run to anything really to escape from life or to distract me from circumstances or anything like that. I just became content. And so in that, if you're listening and you feel like you can relate or you've had a similar issue, my advice is just to let God show you you. And this isn't just for social media. If you find yourself addicted to anything, there's a deeper issue. Addiction is just a symptom. It's a byproduct of a deeper issue. Always. People are not addicted to something simply to be addicted to it. You are addicted to something because you like how this makes you feel in comparison to the deeper issue that you may or may not even know that you have. So just let God deal with you and show you you. He's so, so gentle. And he's so intentional with us. He knows how to interact with you where you are. So like for me, the beginning of 2023, I remember I had a very intimate moment with him. And this is after I had gone to therapy the first time. I just did like BetterHelp for like a month or two. And that was really to deal with like childhood trauma, basically. And I think a little bit of like daddy issues. And so I actually did not know my dad, but I had met my dad early that year. And so after meeting my father and having certain conversations with him that I needed to have and hear things that I needed to hear and going through therapy, I felt like, okay, I had insight that was helpful to my situation. And so I didn't know what the next step was. And so I remember going out to eat alone because I like to do that sometimes. And God was speaking to me through a video I was watching. And so he was speaking to me so intimately. Like it literally felt like he was speaking directly to me. And so I couldn't take it. I was so overwhelmed. And so I had to hurry up and pay and go to my car. And I sat in the car and I just heard God tell me, let me be your father. Let me grow and mature you. And I just burst into tears. I just was crying like so hard. Especially because me having father issues was new to me, especially having just met my father. Even though I have no issues with my father, God saying that just really touched a part of my soul that I didn't think could be touched. So I really just felt like a kid, like literally like a little girl. And so he did exactly what he said he was going to do that year. And so I said that to say he handled me very gently and delicately. And, the more you grow in him, there are times where he will be a little more stern about things, maybe not so gentle because you're growing in him. So just like any parent, when they say what they say what they say. So don't be afraid to let God deal with you and look at your heart and work on you and fix you and heal you. Like, I feel like every human has some sort of deeper issue. And so that's what he's there for, is one of the things he's there for, to heal you. So if you're addicted to anything, not just social media, that is my advice to you. But on a practical level as well, like for me, because I am doing the content creator thing, it's easy for me to look at social media differently. I do still like to scroll and consume certain things, but I have a better hold on it than I used to have. And I pray that it stays that way. But because I, dibble and dabble into content creation, I don't know when this episode is going to go up or where I'll be at this time. So I don't know what my social medias will look like. But yeah, I dibble and dabble in social media and content creation. So I look at content differently. I look at it from a producer standpoint instead of a consumer. So I'm looking at like the quality of things and angles and how they shoot. I can see the dedication they put into things. And so I have an appreciation for content, and I also get inspiration from it. And so once I learned how to kind of cultivate the type of feed that I want, because the algorithm just gives you more of what they know that you like. And so once I kind of figured out how to get my feeds to look how I wanted them to look, both from a content creator standpoint and a consumer standpoint, I just began to appreciate social media for what it is, because social media is not the problem. The problem is in us. It's just a tool. It's just a form of medicine for some people. And so, yeah, I'm at the point where I just appreciate elite content. I call it elite content. When I can tell that somebody takes their content creation very seriously and they want to put their best foot forward. Also like authenticity. So maybe there's someone who does like a super nicely edited reel. You can tell they filmed it on a professional camera. The sound is right. You could just tell they took it seriously. I really appreciate those, but I also appreciate just like a normal person setting up a camera and doing normal stuff as well. So I just appreciate the content that I do see on social media so much more now. And so I just use it as inspiration and motivation. And I just take what I can from it without using it the way I was using it before. And so that just helps my eye. And so if you're also into content creation, I suggest that you maybe look at it that way as well. Once you get to a place where you're not using social media as a band-aid. If you're not into content creation, I think you can still look at certain content and get inspiration from it. There's so much content out here. And so if you're into like DIY projects, tell your feeds to show you more of that. You could be inspired by so many different things that you see and get the inspiration to do something you wanted to do anyway. If you wanted to redo your kitchen, DIY reels and TikToks can give you an idea of maybe what you might want to put in your kitchen. Not saying, copy verbatim, but you just might get inspiration. Maybe there's something that you didn't know or you hadn't seen before, anything like that. So I would just say use social media for what you can use it for. Make it work for you. Don't be a slave to it. But that comes after you've done the inner work. And so that is my recommendation for everyone else. That is where I am currently. And again, I pray it stays that way. because the enemy hear you say stuff like this and then he try you. So, but that's all I have to say for today's show on this topic. I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say, what you guys think. So make sure you guys leave comments and feedback and talk to me, talk to each other, and just share. I would definitely appreciate that. If you are viewing this on YouTube, click the notification bell, like, share, subscribe, all of that good YouTube stuff. You can find me on all the socials. So Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, TikTok, and SoundCloud at Torrancemarchil. And you can DM me on any of those platforms, primarily like Instagram and TikTok. And we can chat there as well. Tag me in your stories and I'll repost them and things like that. Any support that I get, I would appreciate. So yeah, without further ado, I will let you guys go. I hope I gave you some food for thought. And yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.